What's up guys, Vincent Rojas from Red Reviews here with my first review for a season of a television show. And for this momentous occasion for my channel, I have elected to review Fallout, which is a show created for Amazon Prime Video by Wagner and Geneva Robertson-Dworet, who also serve as the series' showrunners and also wrote certain episodes. And this show stars Purnell, Moten, Kyle MacLachlan, Moises, Arias, and Walton Goggins. In this show, which is set in the world of the best-selling video game series of the same name, more than 200 years after a nuclear war ravaged America, a vault dweller goes out into the wasteland in search of her father, crossing paths with a member of the Brotherhood of Steel and a ghoul who each have their own motivations and agendas to pursue as they journey across a broken, post-apocalyptic West Coast. Right off the bat, if you know nothing about Fallout, you probably have a lot of questions about my plot summary. What is a vault dweller? What is the Brotherhood of Steel? What is a ghoul? One of the strongest strengths of the show is explaining the world of Fallout in such a beautifully masterful way that people who haven't played the games can fully understand what is going on at all times. And that's a true statement. I know plenty of people who haven't touched the games once in their lives who really like this show. And that's why I think this show succeeds as well as it does. It is not only a good video game adaptation, it makes for good television on its own. One of the statements I repeat the most in real life concerning video game adaptations is that if you're going to adapt a video game into some sort of other medium, you can't not make it a show. For the simple reason that video games just don't translate well into any other medium. Games have that extra layer of immersion where it's really you controlling these characters for dozens of hours that you just can't get from a movie. In a show, you can take the time to really flesh out the world of the game in a way that does the game justice. Castlevania, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, Arcane, The Last of Us, and now Fallout are all incredible pieces of media based on very popular video games. Notice how none of those are movies. Sure, there are some decent movies based on video games, but none are truly great, not like those projects I just mentioned. Also, the video game The Last of Us is already basically a TV show in the way it presents its narrative. But this is a Fallout review, not a The Last of Us review. Sure, not all video game shows are good. The Halo show still exists, and Castlevania Nocturne isn't nearly as good as its base show. And the Witcher franchise on Netflix is kind of mid. And the Twisted Metal series is kind of mid. But what I'm saying here is that while not all video game-based shows are particularly good, good video game adaptations are always shows, not movies. Also, it's funny that Ella Purnell plays the main character in this show, and she's also a main character in Arcane, in which she plays Jinx. So she's choosing good video game adaptations as projects. The other key ingredient you need to make a good video game adaptation, apart from making it a show, is having actual passion for the games and having actual skill to apply that passion into your project. The Fallout show demonstrates this in spades. There are so many instances where you can tell that the people making this show really freaking like Fallout. The actors, showrunners, everyone is really putting their all into this show to make it work. I've seen a ton of interviews relating to this show, and I love that everyone has such a deep respect for the source material. Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy also proved that they are skilled producers for a show of this magnitude and aesthetic, having previously worked on Westworld, but I'll get into that a bit later. Also, Todd Howard finally has his name attached to an actually good project for the first time in forever, being executive producer of this show, along with Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. And Jonathan Nolan did direct the first 3 episodes of the show. Jonathan Nolan played the games. Ella Purnell has said that she played the games in preparation to play her character, and I think that's great. So many people these days working on video game adaptations don't play the games. And I'm like, what? How on earth could you do that? Sometimes the creators of certain video game adaptations will specifically tell their actors not to play the games. It's so refreshing that this show did its research and the people care about this world. And you won't notice some of the references and stuff if you haven't played the games, but they are there for people who have played the games. And so it appeals to both audiences, to the gamers and the non-gamers. It adds a really cool element to the show for people who have no prior experience with Fallout, and it's a super sick reference to people who have played the games. But it never detracts from the project. It never pulls you out of the experience to be like, yeah, you like that, don't you? You like that reference. It's always integrated so seamlessly. One example of this is in the way they do the VAT system. Now, if you haven't played the games, What that is it's basically a combat mechanic where you slow down time and you can select a specific body part on your enemy to target and shoot. And when you do shoot that body part, it goes into slow motion and it'll do a cool animation. Sometimes the camera will follow the bullet as it pierces your opponent's body. It's really epic and cool when you pull it off. And when you do shoot that body part, it goes into slow motion and it'll do a cool animation as the bullet pierces your opponent's body. It's really epic and cool when you pull it off. And this show does that. There's a fight in episode 2, which by the way is one of the best fight scenes I think I've seen in recent memory. It's so good. I wish I could show it to you because you won't believe how good it is unless you see it, but I also don't want to spoil it. But if you're not sold on the show, you will be after that fight scene. It's at the end of episode 2. But anyways, in this fight, a guy shoots a bullet, and the camera follows the bullet as it pierces the guy's opponent. It's awesome. It looks sick as heck. And you don't know that it's supposed to be a reference to VATS if you haven't played the games, but you can still appreciate the filmmaking. And if you have played the games, you probably lost your mind at that scene, like I did. So it's a win on both fronts. I also really enjoyed some of the other RPG elements that they put into this show, such as looting, shown in a scene in episode 1 where Lucy literally is inside a room in the vault and she gets a pistol. To an average non-Fallout fan just watching the show, they'll be like, oh, that's cool, now she has a gun. But to me, I was like, yes, she looted the room that's in the show. Oh my gosh. There's another instance where a character is shooting a pistol, but he can't reach his targets because he's out of range, so he misses every shot. And he's like, dang it, no scope. And it's like, yeah, that is exactly what it feels like to shoot a pistol with no scope at that range in the games. Especially in Fallout New Vegas, where not every shot even registers, even if you were on target. Its mechanics are so antiquated. It's like there's a layer of rust on everything. I love that game, but they need to update it. Please remake Fallout New Vegas for current gen consoles. That remake would be so sick. On the topic of references to the Fallout games, there's even a scene where Norm, who is Ella Purnell's character Lucy's younger brother, played by Moises Arias, whom you might have seen in Nacho Libre and Ender's Game. He's great here. He plays kind of a hacker slash stealth type character, and he hacks into a terminal using the hack screen ripped straight from the games. References like the ones I just mentioned just make me so unbelievably happy. Moving on, I think the use of humor in this show is spectacularly well done. To me, a big reason I like the games so much is because of just how funny they are. It's something that you don't really think about going in, but when you start playing the games, you realize that the writing is really good. Maybe it's just a Fallout New Vegas thing, and that is the game I've played the most out of any of the Fallout games. But that game and the way it presents its RPG elements can make for some really funny interactions. The humor is handled super well in this show. It's really dark, very dark, bloody, gory humor, but I was laughing at multiple spots in this show. I think it's a perfect balance of humor because it never undermines the tone of the show. It never lightens the stakes, never pulls you out of the experience. It's really well done, but it is dark. One of my personal favorite jokes is one where there's a guy and he's about to blow his brains out. He's got a long gun barrel down his mouth and he's putting his toe on the trigger trying to discharge the weapon. And then he looks up and he sees someone passing by and he just runs over to him trying to do business with him, trying to make a quick buck. Like, that's funny. That's funny stuff to me. But it is super dark. The humor makes you laugh without relieving the tension of the show, which is good. That is how you do Fallout humor. There's one really funny scene where it's just a guy from the Brotherhood of Steel running away from a radioactive mutant bear who's a Yao Guai from the games. And the knight from the Brotherhood of Steel is dropping like a million F-bombs as he runs away. That's funny stuff to me. Here's the clip. Or another scene where a character has to buy something, but he doesn't have enough money, so he sells his teeth to get enough money. And then he's talking in a weird way because he just had his teeth removed. This show has the perfect tone, the perfect balance of humor and darkness. A lot of the jokes have to do with the mindset of the characters, particularly Ella Purnell's vault dweller, Lucy. I love this character. This is the perfect protagonist for a Fallout TV show. She is a person who's lived in this sheltered environment her whole life, in an underground nuclear vault, and is now thrust into this violent, relentlessly harsh world that is the above-ground wasteland. and seeing her naivete come into play is adorable, and it plays to the strengths of the show because you get this dichotomy where everyone's trying to kill each other, and then you introduce this character of Lucy into the fray, and she's just assuming the best of everyone in every situation, and she just wants everyone to treat each other well, and it's really funny. That's where a lot of the jokes come in, but it's never at the expense of her character. It's done in really good taste. Ella Purnell described this character as Ned Flanders in The Apocalypse, and I could not think of a better analogy. Seeing her character transform from this almost homeschooler type to a certified tough cookie who can handle herself in a lot of situations is really cool. And then there's some situations where her naivete doesn't result in the best outcome and she just has to be saved. It's really interesting. Her okie dokies are perfect in giving the audience the feel for her character, and the way she says okie dokie in tandem with her eventual cursing in the later episodes is really funny and also serves as further insight into her character growth. There's a scene in the show where the ghoul tells Lucy, "I'm you, sweetie, you just give it a little time." And that line serves as great foreshadowing for Lucy eventually becoming this tough cookie wastelander, similar to the ghoul, though not nearly on his level. Her character progression is something that's handled really well in the show and is something that I am very excited to see expanded upon in a season 2. Lucy's XP level at the finale has proved to be a big topic of discourse revolving around the show. I think that this demonstrates A, that the Fallout community is made up of a bunch of nerd psychopaths, but also B, that Lucy definitely gains XP from the start of the show to the end. And again, I would like to see her get even stronger in season 2. But also, it's handled in such a way where by the end of season 1, Lucy still retains some of that innocence and charm from the start of the show. She just gets tougher along the way. It's handled so well. Ella Purnell also has like really big eyes, which make it really easy for her face to be super expressive, which I like. And I think that she's just the perfect choice for the main character. She gets ample time to interact with all sorts of people. She's paired with Maximus from the Brotherhood of Steel for a while, and then she's paired with the Ghoul for a while. I'll get to him in a bit. She's also paired with a lot of different side characters, and so you get so many well-written scenes where Lucy's just bouncing off of different people with so many different worldviews. It's brilliant storytelling and is very entertaining to see. It also helps that Ella Purnell is very appealing human being to be looking at. I'm saying she's pretty. All right, moving on. Of course, I cannot make a Fallout review without gushing over Walton Goggins' Ghoul. Wow. A stellar performance. Walton Goggins is the kind of guy who can play an outlaw really well. If you've seen Justified, you know, this guy can act. I have liked him in everything I've seen him in. He's always a scene stealer, and while he does kind of play the same character a lot of the time, he does play that character really well. And the Ghoul is such a force of nature that I was grinning like an idiot every time he's on screen. He legitimately steals every scene he's in. Every single one. It's kind of unfair how good he is, because you can't think of this show without thinking of him. He does steal the spotlight. He has the best lines, the coolest outfit. He's dressed in this trench coat that's like all tattered at the bottom and withered, and it does give him like a ghoul-ish appearance. He has the best makeup. I mean, look at this makeup. He's like a blend of Deadpool and Voldemort. He's repulsive. I love him. Not much is known about the Ghoul. He's this mysterious, shadowy figure. But then the show starts feeding you these flashbacks where you see his past life as a regular human. The show does this really genius thing where it starts giving you these flashbacks in little scenes about the past, about the world before the nuclear war. And it's in these scenes where you get the character development for the Ghoul. And I won't spoil it, but rest assured, this show is very much elevated by these flashbacks. The show starts in one of these flashbacks, and it is a stupendous and a rapturous entry into this world. I was literally hooked from scene one. It's terrifying and beautiful at the same time. It's genius. But these flashbacks, where you see the world before everything turned to crap, they never detract from the show. I was really invested in both sides, in the present day storylines as well as the past storylines. It's really good. The third main character, Maximus, the Brotherhood of Steel guy, is definitely the weakest actor. He's not bad, but he is undoubtedly outshined by the other two amazing performances. So he ended up being my least favorite of the three. but he does get some good character work, particularly with this other guy, Thaddeus, with whom he's paired up with for a good portion of the show. Their dynamic is interesting for reasons I won't spoil. Again, Maximus does get some good character work, but he will still probably be your least favorite character in the show when put up against Lucy, and especially the ghoul. Man, he's cool. The world building of this show is exceptionally fantastic. Two of the executive producers of the show are Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, who of course worked on Westworld, and you can feel some of that show's aesthetic bleed into this one. They do know how to make a Western-themed show. Jonathan Nolan also worked on Person of Interest and is perhaps sadly best known as Christopher Nolan's younger brother. Jonathan co-wrote The Prestige, The Dark Knight Rises, and Interstellar with Christopher Nolan, and Jonathan Nolan also wrote the short story that inspired Memento, which is currently my favorite movie of all time. Anyways, you can tell that he really likes Fallout. He has said as much in interviews and the like, but where you can especially tell that the people making the show care about Fallout is in the set design. The vaults look incredible. You can tell that these are real, tangible locations that people are actually walking in. No green screen or anything. And the wasteland looks absolutely insane as well. This actually looks like a lived-in post-apocalyptic California. The sets are amazing. You can tell that a ton of money went into it. The town of Philly looks amazing. It reminds me of Megaton City from Fallout 3 or Diamond City from Fallout 4. Even though Philly is original to the show, it still totally fits within the world. There's even an actual Red Rocket gas station in the show where the ghoul finds dog meat, just like in Fallout 4's opening hours. There's NCR propaganda everywhere with the two-headed bear flags. Nuka-Cola products are everywhere. There's a Grognak the Barbarian reference in the opening to the entire show. The Pip-Boy is treated as a big deal, as well it should. Even the simple way Lucy introduces herself in the start of the show is in and of itself a reference to the special character creation system from the games. But it never pulls you out from watching good television. It's just integrated so seamlessly. People use stim packs to heal themselves just like in the games. There's Yum Yum Deviled Eggs, Abraxo Cleaner, Radiation King TV sets, Radaway, Sugar Bombs, Blamco Mac and Cheese, Fusion Cores, Mr. Handy Robots, of which there's a really cool reveal that Fallout fans will love in a later episode. I mean, there's even a line of dialogue where someone mentions the water chip being destroyed. That is such a deep cut reference just to show you that the people making this show did their research. Of course, that is a reference to the first Fallout game, which came out in 1997. And that's not even scratching the surface of the insane amount of references in this show. I could fill this whole video solely with references, but this video is long enough as it is already, and part of the joy is finding out all of these Easter eggs on your own. So naturally, I went ahead and spoiled a bunch of them. You're welcome. And the best part is that all of these things don't feel fan servicey. They just feel like natural extensions of the world. Another great exemplar of the production of the show is a particular prosthetic that has to continually get more decayed and rotten as the episodes progress, and it's great. I really like the retro-futuristic aesthetic of Fallout, where this is a world that's based on the idea that people back in the 1950s thought that the future would look like. So there's a lot of talk of communism, and the TV sets are in black and white, and there are cool robot designs. And in a flashback to an earlier time, the ghoul pulls up in the sickest retro car known to mankind.
Well, the most notable feature of a Kaiser Darren is the sliding pocket doors. So the two doors do not swing out on a hinge like virtually any car door that has ever been produced. They actually slide into the fenders, almost kind of like the sliding glass door in your house.
Look at that door. Man, that's cool. The soundtrack also adds to this retro-futuristic aesthetic. The songs are all kind of old-timey jams, just like in the games. Some are even ripped straight from the games. I remember being a wee lad myself and listening to the Fallout New Vegas soundtrack playlists that people would make on YouTube. Before even playing the games, I knew of the music. The Fallout series is probably the biggest reason I like older music so much, and this soundtrack is exceptional. They even have a scene set at a radio station, which just released so many endorphins in my brain. If you know, you know. There's also all of the weird creature designs that Fallout fans will love. There's radroaches and gulpers and Brahmins and Yaoguais, and all of these creature encounters paired with wacky NPC-type characters are all faithful to the world of Fallout. All of the side characters mimic NPCs from the games, and they're all really memorable. But the real nail in the coffin is a line that's said by the ghoul, and I'll just play the clip.
get my dad
Yeah,
back.
well, the Wasteland's got its own golden receiver.
Oh, what's that?
Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time.
And when I heard that, I was grinning ear to ear because I was like, yup. And that's how you know that this show was written by Fallout fans. That line is the perfect exemplar of the games. And it works so well to the show's advantage because the plot is actually really simple. But the characters get sidetracked so much. They get betrayed and encounter cults, and they have to fight creatures, and they have to fight each other, and it never got annoying. I was never annoyed that they got off the beaten path because that's exactly how it works in the games. You'll be trying to do one quest, and then you'll get sidetracked again because you stumbled onto like a Deathclaw nest, and you'll have to take them all out. And then you'll complete the quest and get back to the NPC who gave you the quest, and he'll be dead because he got eaten by like a rat roach or something. It's awesome. I love that kind of RPG crap. It's never annoying to see the main characters veer off the beaten path because I just want to see more of this world. I really like the way the narrative is handled in this show. There are multiple plot lines with different characters who all sort of generally want the same thing, and a lot of these plot lines are running concurrently to each other. Obviously, there is that one plot line that's following the ghoul's life before the Great War, but apart from that, all of the plot lines set in the same time run simultaneously to each other. And the way the show jumps around these different plot lines is handled so elegantly. Sometimes it merges plot lines or it splits one single plot line into two different plot lines. And the best part is that it's never disorienting and it always manages to keep the plot fresh and engaging. You're never tired of one particular plot line because the show just jumps to a different one after some time. And you never feel lost or like you don't know what's going on. It's brilliant. The plot is kept simple while simultaneously devoting a lot of time to individual plot lines. I saw so many references to the games I've played and it made me so happy. I have played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and I just purchased the next gen Game of the Year edition of Fallout 4 for my PS5, and I've been playing that a lot. Watching this show, I especially fell for all of the Fallout New Vegas references. I will not spoil anything, but fans are gonna go ballistic over one character reveal in particular. I will say that there's a character named Chet in the show, just like the vendor in Good Springs in Fallout New Vegas' opening hours. I have played too much of that game. And so this character named Chet may or may not be a reference to that NPC. The last shot of the show is especially going to make Fallout New Vegas fans happy, and I won't spoil it or anything, even though the show already released a month ago, but I lost my mind at that scene. I was texting friends. I was like, yo, they put that in the show. What? It's great. And to people who haven't played the games, they'll be like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, ah! It's so good. It's so good. The cinematography of the show is also fantastic. One of the biggest appeals of Fallout for me is just walking around in a weird, desolate land while listening to sick tunes. And the show captures this aspect of the games perfectly with these really wide shots where there's like a single character way down below, and the shot is really empty except for that one character, and it just gives the impression of a really lonely place. It creates the perfect atmosphere for a Fallout show. I won't spoil the way the show ends, but it definitely leaves the door wide open for a second season. I will mention that the way it splits the characters up makes one of the plot lines much more interesting to me than the other. Again, I will not spoil the specifics, but I think if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. The characters are split up, but it's done in a way where I want to see one specific narrative branch continue much more than I want to see the other. Not that I don't want to see the other, but there's one that is creating so many more exciting possibilities than the other. I would hate it if the show followed this specific branch of characters for only like the first 2 episodes of the second season or something like that, because their dynamic is awesome. Overall, this was a very successful first season of Fallout. I don't do ratings yet, but if I did, I would give this a solid A. It was great. I can easily see myself rewatching this show to pick up all of the details that I definitely missed. And I don't usually rewatch TV shows, but this was just a different beast. It is awesome to me that Amazon renewed this for a second season after only 8 days of airtime. That's just to show you how popular this show is among fans of Fallout and people who are watching this show as their first entry into the Fallout world. I will be front and center to see how the story continues in the second season. It is safe to say that I am very, very excited. The one thing, just one thing that I will fault this show for is that there's no Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman is of course Hellboy and provides the narration for some of the earlier Fallout games. So the lack of his inclusion in the show is what's gonna have to make me give it a 0 out of 10, honestly. This is a trash show. Don't watch it. It sucks. It's terrible. 0 out of 10 show. I think a lot of people are gonna start playing Fallout after watching the show, and I think that's great. If you are someone looking to get into Fallout games for the first time, I would recommend buying Fallout 4 first, as that is the most easy and accessible game to newcomers. And then I'd recommend playing either Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is my personal favorite, but Fallout 3 is quite good as well. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of my first review for a season of a television show. I've got a lot more reviews coming, so stay tuned in the upcoming weeks, and please watch those as well. Go have a nice day, what's left of it. Peace.